You know who are the toughest critics of food writing? Chefs, closely followed by everybody else in the food world. If you want their respect, you have got to earn it. And with her award-winning writing for 7 days, Melissa Pasanen has become something of a doyenne of the food writing scene in Vermont. She's joining me today on Across the Fence to talk about her latest cover story. Hello, Vermont. The only downside to being good friends with Melissa Pasanen is that at a restaurant, she photographs every dish before you're allowed to taste it, regardless of whether she's writing about it. The research never stops. And that's why she's twice been awarded top honors for national food writing by the Association of Alternative News Media, helping put Vermont's food scene on the map. Melissa has been a staff writer for 7 days since 2020 and currently serves as the weekly food and drink assignment editor. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be here.
I'm very excited to have you here today. And first things first, because I think this is one of those questions that everybody always wants to know from a food writer. How many meals a week do you eat out?
I mean, do I eat out for work or do I just eat out?
Do you? Yes. I mean, what is it like basically to be a food writer in
I
Vermont?
think my husband finally understands that every meal I eat out is work. Yeah, I mean, honestly.
There's no such thing as a casual meal out.
Even if I'm not writing about a place, it all informs me, right?
Yes,
and you never know what you're going to taste or what ingredient might be new to you. But
I've been a part of that because I've gotten a chance to eat out with you many times. And as I said, the very first thing that happens is Melissa's going to take out her camera and she's going to photograph all of the food. But then again, this is one of the reasons why you have such a fantastic reputation as a food writer. Your work is very highly accoladed and you have a lot of the respect of all of the chefs and food producers all across Vermont. What is the furthest you have ever driven for a meal?
I mean, I was thinking about that question. I've gone to pretty much every corner of Vermont, you know, Bennington, Brattleboro, and north, but north isn't that far. And now we do cover Quebec, so now I go into Quebec. In fact, I'm working on a story for next week's issue that will be about Bedford, Quebec, which is not very far across the border, really fun.
I think it's one of the reasons why 7 days is so respected in terms of its food coverage is because of the fact that while the distribution for the paper is not into every corner of Vermont. Can you pick it up in every corner?
You cannot pick it up in every corner. We're definitely more central and north, but we do have distribution in various pockets.
And then of course there's the website.
Yes, of course, it's distributed
and social media. I mean, it's like now it doesn't really, you're not entirely confined to the print universe. But the coverage is very wide ranging and does go all across Vermont. And also you have your master's in food systems from UVM, so you're not constrained to covering solely dining. You also get into farms and farming issues. How do you come up with stories?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I started doing this almost 25 years ago.
7 days is not your first.
But I was thinking about it because when I started writing in literally 2001, I remember I was like, we have all these great food producers. I should write about them. And at the time, my editor at the Free Press, which I was writing for then, said, well, you can do that a little bit, but you really need to do like more traditional food writing. You know, how to use a can of tomatoes 7 ways.
Oh gosh, that sounds so antiquated.
Right, and then it just gathered steam. But I mean, I used to think, oh, I'm going to run out of story ideas because there's only so many things, but that's not true because Vermont food people and farming and all of that are so creative. There is always something new to write about. I mean, a couple years ago, I discovered this woman making halva with maple syrup. Like, that's actually a chemistry problem, and she cracked it, and it's delicious, holy halva out of Bristol. And there's always something new. It's just so fun. So, I mean, I go to farmers markets, I eat out, I follow, you know, what's going on with NOFA Vermont, the Northeast Organic Farming Association. I follow what's going on at UVM, right? Always interesting.
Safe to say that your radar is always on.
Yes, it is always on.
And you see it that pretty much everything can be a story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it reminds me of what it's like to do this job because it's very much the same. I mean, we're doing a show every single day, so the radar is always on. You're constantly thinking about like, who can I bring in? What are we going to talk about? So what are the food stories that you care the most about?
That is such an interesting question. I mean, I care deeply, which is part of my problem, about every story I write. I mean, which is good, and of course you should. But you know, I was thinking there are these huge stories, like I did in the last several years. I did a big story about how climate change is impacting farmers. I care deeply about that. I interviewed a dozen farmers, you know, and folks working with farmers. And I did a story post-pandemic about how the pandemic helped us think in different ways about food insecurity. So I care deeply about those huge systemic stories, but the stories that are most near and dear to my heart are the small, I shouldn't call them small, but the very specific, like the person who is making Tibetan momos the way they learned to make them in the Nepalese refugee camp that their family lived in for a decade. Or I wrote a story originally for the Free Press and then actually a second version of it for Saveur magazine about this 90-year-old woman in Rutland who was Polish American, first generation, and this bialy barsh that she made, this white borscht soup, that every time she made it, it reminded her of growing up in this community where everyone was first generation Polish. Those are the stories that really, or these women, a couple years ago, I wrote about a collective of mostly women in Addison County who were mostly from Mexico, many of them working in the dairy farm community, and them making their empanadas or their peliscadas, the different versions of masa dough, and sharing food, you know, carries memories for people. And you don't only talk about food, but you talk about their life and how it's centered around food and how the traditions carried. Anyway, I can go on forever, but those are the stories that.
But see, but this is the reason why. Like now you are getting an understanding for why she is a nationally recognized food writer. It's because, and why this is an important part of telling the story of Vermont food. Because it isn't just about a dish or a tomato, it's about the culture, it's about the people, and it's about how embedded they are into this landscape. And okay, you know, and I could do this for forever. Okay, but let's talk about your current story, which is the cover story out this week, cover story of 7 days, and it's on Shelburne Farms. I know that you've been working on this one for quite a while. Where did this story begin? What was the story you set out to tell?
So, just some backstory about 7 days, which maybe we're going to talk about a little bit more, but an amazing team, amazing place. And while we're constantly working on every week's issue, we also try, to the credit of the people above me, to plan further ahead. So in December, they said, when we come back, we're going to have a big meeting in January, and everyone should come with at least one big cover story idea. And so you're thinking, what on my beat would make a good cover story?
Quick interjection. How many people are we talking about here?
I should know this. I think it's 50-ish, but on the writing staff, maybe more like 15, and plus editors, maybe 20.
That's a lot of work for 15 people. Okay, go back to the story. Okay.
So I was brainstorming what could be a big topic. You know, like I mentioned, the climate change was a big story I wrote about last year. And I thought, all of a sudden, I was like, you know, I don't think anyone locally has told the full story of Shelburne Farms, which I happen to know partly because, like 20 years ago, I wrote a cookbook with them. That's long.
So you wanted to get in, you wanted to get into the origin story of the Shelburne Farms, the generation that decided we have a choice here, right? I mean, it's either sell the land to development or we need to think of a creative way to be able to. What do they decide
and
to do?
I don't know how many people know that story, and I think a lot of people don't, right? It was a Gilded Age estate founded by the heiress, a Vanderbilt heiress, and her husband in the late 1880s. And then their great-grandchildren, I'm terrible with the generations, in the 1960s, their father said, we cannot keep up this estate. It's
and they had
these gorgeous houses and buildings, barns that were just massive and monumental and cost zillions.
And you would like to think that this is what everyone would do, which is to turn it into a public asset. But yet it almost feels like sort of the most Vermont story ever.
Yeah.
I mean, that is indeed what happened.
Right. And it was very much part of the times, which I tried to portray.
Absolutely.
Right. This was the late 60s. So we've got Vietnam, we've got civil rights, we've got women's lib, we've got the environmental movement, you know,
Yes.
Rachel Carson, Silent
Yes.
Spring, and
into this comes
right,
Shelburne
and
Farms.
these 6 young people aged 11 to 23, they say, no, we don't want to sell out. We don't want the money. We want to do something that is better for the world with this, you know, treasure that is our family sort of heirloom.
One little detail that jumped out to me that I thought, I don't know if people will know this, is that before the pandemic there was an entry price to be able to go and walk the trails, but after the pandemic, they've never brought it back again.
No.
And that's lost revenue in order to keep it open to the public so that we can all enjoy all those miles of trails. I want everyone to be sure to pick up the story. I don't want to give up too much of the story. It's out on Now. New issues come out every Wednesday. I do know that you had to cut a lot. So is there any, like, one anecdote, because we're believe it or not, we're pushing up on time. One anecdote that didn't make it into the cut.
Oh, there's so many, but yeah. So I was trying to draw a portrait of these young people who are now in their 70s, growing up on the farm, and they were basically farm kids. People don't understand that, the current generation. They were, that's in the story. But one of the things that got cut was they also, especially Marshall, the late Marshall, who died a couple years ago, he was kind of, I don't want to say a party animal, but he had a lot of fun. So they would have these kind of rambunctious parties in the like formal dining room and in the game room for anyone who's been there, playing music like the Beach Boys and apparently Alec. If anyone's met Alec, he's the current president. Lovely, very reserved kind of gentleman. Apparently he does a spot-on impersonation of Loudon Wainwright's Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road. And I had to cut that detail, which I loved.
That's a hard one. That's a very, very hard one. Okay, well, so we're coming now down to the 0 hour, but I do want to ask one quick question since you are a Food World insider. What food trend do you think is coming next to Vermont?
I mean, we get everything a little late, I will say.
I think we also set trends.
We do. This is true. This is true. But I just wrote about a new candy store on Church Street called Whiz Bang's Candy Lab. That is in this same issue's paper, same week's paper, sorry. And they have all the latest trends. And they said that TikTok candy trends are crazy. And I don't follow. Actually, TikTok is not my social media.
You have heard it now from the top food writer in Vermont that the big trend coming to Vermont is TikTok candy. So I don't know if that is something to make us
Squashies.
And
apparently Taylor Swift is into this candy called Squashies, and they have it. So if you want that.
Well, now you know where you have to go next. So Melissa Pasanen's 7-day cover story on Shelburne Farms, A New Heyday, is out now. Pick it up or you can read it online. The website is on the screen. And while you're there, sign up for the 7 Days Bite Club to get piping hot food news and recommendations from Melissa and her food and drink team. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me. Absolute pleasure. And as always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.